The silent loss of muscle as we age, a condition called sarcopenia, can steal our strength and our freedom. But what if the secret to fighting back wasn't in a gym, but in your own kitchen? Today, we tell the incredible story of how one man reversed his decline and reclaimed his life, not with expensive drugs, but with 8 simple, powerful foods. His journey will show you that you have more control over the aging process than you think. Stay with us for this life-changing story. And if you're ready to learn the secrets to aging with strength, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel right now. The silence in Samuel's coastal home was a heavy blanket, smothering the memories of a life that had ended 2 years ago. His own life had become a series of small defeats, like the stubborn pickle jar he now glared at, its lid refusing to yield to his trembling, weakened hands. Defeated, his gaze drifted to the window, to the tangled, thorny remains of his late wife Eleanor's rose garden, a perfect mirror for his own neglected heart. Turning from the counter, his foot caught on a rug. The fall wasn't dramatic, but it was absolute. His frail legs simply crumpled, and he landed on the hard floorboards with a hollow thud. As he lay there, unable to push himself up, the full weight of his helplessness crashed down on him. This was it, the quiet, humiliating fade he had feared more than anything. A sharp rap on the door broke the stillness. "Hello," a calm voice called out. "I saw you take a tumble." Before he could answer, the door opened, and a woman with kind eyes and silver hair knelt beside him. "My name is Evelyn. I just moved in next door," she said, her presence reassuring, not pitying. "Let's get you up." Nice and slow. With a surprising strength and gentle competence, she helped him into an armchair. Her gaze took in the dusty room and the untouched toast in the kitchen, but she made no comment. She simply fetched him a glass of water and draped a warm throw over his legs. "You rest now," she said softly. "I'll bring by some soup later, just to check on you." She left as quietly as she came. Samuel sat motionless, the warmth of the blanket seeping into his bones. The oppressive silence of the house had been broken, punctured by a simple act of kindness. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of something other than grief. He wasn't entirely alone. The next morning, Samuel awoke feeling sore, but the visit from his doctor hurt more than any bruise. Dr. Evans was efficient and clinical, delivering a verdict of natural aging. He left behind prescriptions and suggestions that felt like a life sentence: a walker, physical therapy, and the sterile silence of an assisted living facility. The doctor's words confirmed Samuel's worst fears, painting a future of managed decline. Just as despair began to settle, Evelyn arrived with a thermos. The rich, earthy aroma of homemade lentil soup filled the room, a stark contrast to the sterile scent of the doctor's visit. Samuel, expecting to refuse, found himself accepting a bowl. The first spoonful was a revelation, not just food, but warmth and life. As he ate, Evelyn gently explained that his condition had a name: sarcopenia, the invisible erosion of muscle. "It isn't just old age," she said. "Your body is a remarkable structure, but it needs the right materials to stay strong. Think of protein as the foundation bricks for a building." She gestured to the soup. "These lentils are packed with them." He listened, a lifetime of skepticism warring with the undeniable comfort spreading through him. It wasn't a lecture, it was simply a new idea, a seed of possibility. When Evelyn left, the doctor's prescriptions lay on one side of his chair and her warm thermos on the other. For the first time, he realized he was facing a choice, not between life and death, but between 2 very different ways of living. The seed of hope Evelyn had planted was a fragile thing. In the days that followed, Samuel found himself at war with it. A part of him, the historian, was intrigued by the logic of her nutritional science, but a much larger, heavier part, the grieving husband, resisted. To embrace this new way of eating felt like a betrayal of Eleanor. It was her pot roast, her buttery mashed potatoes, her apple pie that had been the flavor of his life. To eat lentils and quinoa felt like admitting she was truly gone, that her way of caring for him was no longer enough. He retreated into his memories, spending hours in his dusty study, surrounded by photo albums. There was Eleanor, vibrant and laughing in her garden. Eleanor, covered in flour in the kitchen. Eleanor, holding their newborn son. Each photograph was a fresh stab of pain. He ignored Evelyn's gentle knocks and left the food she sometimes left on his porch untouched. He was a man adrift, and he preferred the familiar sea of his sorrow to the strange, new land she was offering. The turning point came not as a knock, but as a ring. The telephone's shrill cry cut through the house's silence, and he answered it irritably. "Grandpa." The voice was bright, full of a youthful energy that felt alien in his muted world. It was his granddaughter, Chloe. "It's me," he said, his own voice sounding rusty to his ears. "I have the best news," she chirped, oblivious to his mood. "We set the date, June 14th, and we found the perfect venue, an outdoor garden by the sea. It's going to be beautiful. You'll love it. It will remind you of Grandma's roses." Samuel's heart constricted. "That's wonderful, my dear. There's just one thing, Grandpa." Her voice softened, growing thick with emotion. "I was picturing it, and you're there. You're the one walking me down the aisle. Please tell me you'll be strong enough. I need you to be there." The line went quiet. He looked down at his own hands, resting on his knees. They were trembling, the skin thin as parchment over a lattice of blue veins. He pictured the scene, a green lawn, a beautiful bride, and her grandfather, a frail old man shuffling beside her with a walker, or worse, not there at all. The image was unbearable. He had made a silent promise to Eleanor on the day she died, that he would always look after their family. In his grief, he had been failing that promise. "I'll be there," he said, the words tasting like a vow, "and I will walk you down that aisle." After he hung up, he sat for a long time, Chloe's plea echoing in the silence. It was a call to action from the future, a pull toward life that was stronger than the backward tug of his grief. The next afternoon, when Evelyn knocked, he opened the door. She held a covered plate. "I made an omelette," she said simply, "with spinach from my garden, and a little Greek yogurt on the side." He didn't refuse. He sat at his kitchen table and let her in. As he ate the fluffy, savory eggs, he listened as she explained, her voice calm and steady. She told him how eggs were like nature's perfect muscle package, containing a type of protein the body could absorb with incredible efficiency. She explained that the Greek yogurt was not just for taste, it was a creamy powerhouse of protein and calcium, essential for bone strength. He ate every bite. It was not with enthusiasm, not yet. It was with the grudging, somber acceptance of a man who had finally chosen a side in the war. He had chosen life. A week later, Samuel did something he hadn't done in 2 years. He walked next door and knocked on Evelyn's front door. When she opened it, a look of gentle surprise on her face, he cleared his throat. "Evelyn," he began, the words feeling formal and heavy, "I find myself in need of assistance. That is to say, I would like to formally request your help." The smile that spread across her face was as warm as the morning Sunday. "I would be honored, Samuel." Their first outing was to the local market. For Samuel, it felt like a voyage to a foreign country. The automatic doors slid open with a soft whoosh, revealing a world of overwhelming color and life. He gripped the shopping cart, his knuckles white, as Evelyn guided him through the aisles. She moved with a quiet purpose, turning the mundane task of grocery shopping into a masterclass. "Look here," she said in the produce section, holding up a bunch of deep green kale. "Leafy greens are more than just salad. They're full of magnesium and nitrates, which help your muscles work better by improving blood flow. They deliver the oxygen your muscles need to be strong." She led him to the bulk bins. "And these are the quiet heroes. Quinoa," she said, letting the tiny grains run through her fingers. "It's a complete protein, which is rare for a plant. And all of these beans and legumes, think of them as plant-based powerhouses, rebuilding your strength bite by bite. Mr. Henderson, the store owner, watched them from behind the counter, a knowing smile on his face. He'd seen Samuel's slow decline over the past few years and was glad to see a spark of life returning to his old customer. Back in Samuel's kitchen, a room he had come to associate with lonely, tasteless meals, Evelyn began the first lesson. She didn't take over. She guided. She showed him how to rinse the quinoa, how to chop a sweet potato, how to open a can of black beans and rinse them properly. Muscles don't just need protein to rebuild, she explained as she tossed the sweet potato chunks with a little olive oil. They need fuel to move. These sweet potatoes are full of complex carbohydrates. Think of them as clean, slow-burning fuel for your body's engine. The aroma of roasting sweet potatoes soon filled the house, chasing away the stale scent of sorrow. They combined everything into a colorful, vibrant bowl. As Samuel took the first bite, a mixture of quinoa, sweet potato, and black beans, it tasted like more than just food. It tasted like possibility. It tasted like control. For the first time, he wasn't just a passive victim of his own decline. He was an active participant in his own reconstruction. Winter slowly loosened its icy grip on the Maine coast, giving way to the first tentative signs of spring. And just as the pale green buds began to appear on the trees, new strength began to bud within Samuel. His days took on a new rhythm, a quiet discipline that was both challenging and deeply satisfying. His mornings no longer began with a sense of dread, but with a simple, nourishing breakfast. Greek yogurt topped with berries and a sprinkle of sunflower seeds, or a soft boiled egg. Evelyn had called nuts and seeds small bites with big benefits, tiny packages of energy and healthy fats that he now snacked on throughout the day. The new routine extended beyond the kitchen. It started with a walk to the end of the driveway, then a walk to the end of the block. He began doing simple stretches while the kettle boiled, feeling the gentle pull in muscles that had been dormant for years. The victories were small, but they were monumental. One afternoon, he carried a full grocery bag from the car to the house in one trip, his arms steady, his breath even. Another day, he found himself at the top of the stairs without having to pause halfway up. Then came the true test, a new jar of raspberry jam. He gripped the lid, planted his feet, and with a focused twist, the seal popped with a satisfying thwomp. He stood alone in his kitchen and laughed. A real, hearty laugh that felt like a relic from another lifetime. As his body grew stronger, his spirit began to thaw. The heavy shroud of grief began to lift, replaced by a softer, more translucent veil of memory. He found himself talking to Evelyn about Eleanor, not with the raw pain of loss, but with the warm glow of remembrance. He told her about Eleanor's terrible singing voice and her infectious laugh, stories that made them both chuckle. The silence in the house was being replaced by conversation, by the gentle clatter of pots and pans, by the quiet turning of pages as he began to read again. He was not just rebuilding his muscles, he was rebuilding his life. With his returning strength came a surge of confidence, a dangerous, intoxicating thing. One bright April afternoon, feeling particularly energetic, Samuel decided the time had come to confront his wife's neglected rose garden. He would tackle it himself. He would restore it to its former glory. He marched outside, full of purpose, and immediately went for the heaviest task. A large, half-used bag of mulch that had sat hardening by the shed for 2 years. "I can do this," he muttered, grabbing the thick plastic. He bent, twisted, and heaved. A bolt of white-hot pain shot through his lower back. It was sharp, electric, and absolute. His legs buckled, and he gasped, dropping the bag with a thud. He staggered back to the house, each step a fresh agony, and collapsed into his armchair, the world shrinking to the searing pain radiating from his spine. The physical pain was nothing compared to the emotional devastation. He was a fool. An old fool who had let a flicker of progress blind him to the reality of his frailty. All his hard work, undone in a single, stupid moment. When Evelyn knocked on his door later that afternoon, he greeted her with a face like thunder. "It's my back," he snapped, his voice tight with anger and despair. "I tried to move that mulch. All this talk of strength, it was just false hope." I'm destined to be a weak old man, and that's the end of it. Evelyn didn't flinch at his outburst. She simply listened, her expression calm and compassionate. When he finished, she guided him to lie down carefully on the sofa and fetched him a bag of frozen peas to place on his back. "Healing is not a straight line, Samuel," she said softly, her voice a balm on his frayed nerves. "It has peaks and valleys. You just hit a valley. The most important thing now is to rest and give your body the tools it needs to repair." She returned a short while later with a simple bowl of cottage cheese mixed with sliced peaches. He looked at it with disdain. "You think this is going to fix my back?" he grumbled. "No," she said patiently. "Rest will fix your back. This will help." Cottage cheese is special. It's packed with a protein called casein. It's a slow-digesting protein that feeds your muscles over several hours. It's the perfect food for recovery, especially while you sleep. He ate the cottage cheese in resentful silence. But as the day wore on and the pain in his back began to subside to a dull ache, her words echoed in his mind. Healing is not a straight line. It was a lesson in patience, a reminder that true strength wasn't just about lifting heavy bags. It was about having the wisdom to know when to rest, and the resilience to get back up after a fall. His recovery was a lesson in humility. For 2 weeks, Samuel was forced to do little more than rest and take short, shuffling walks around the house. But this time, the inactivity was different. It wasn't a surrender, it was a strategic retreat. He ate the nourishing food Evelyn brought him, focusing on the slow, quiet work of healing. When the pain finally receded, he returned to the rose garden with a new, wiser perspective. Chloe's wedding was just a month away. He would not be defeated. He didn't start with the heavy mulch. He started with a single rosebush, the one Eleanor had called Peace. With a pair of pruning shears, he began to carefully snip away the dead, blackened canes. He cleared the weeds from its base, his movements slow and deliberate. The work was meditative. Each dead branch he cut away felt like a release of old grief. Each patch of weeds he cleared felt like he was making space for new life. He worked this way for weeks, one small section at a time. The garden became his sanctuary and his gym. He was not just restoring the roses, he was living the very principles Evelyn had taught him. The steady, patient work was rebuilding his back, his legs, his core. And as he worked, he felt Eleanor's presence, not as a haunting ghost, but as a proud, loving companion. Her spirit woven into the scent of the soil and the warmth of the Sunday. He uncovered the first new buds of the season, tiny crimson promises of the beauty to come. His transformation did not go unnoticed. Mr. Henderson from the market dropped off a bag of organic fertilizer one afternoon, declaring it on the house. Another neighbor stopped by to offer the use of his wheelbarrow. Samuel, the man who had hidden from the world, found himself engaged in easy conversation, sharing gardening tips and accepting help with grace. His garden and his life were slowly coming back into bloom. The 14th of June arrived, a perfect coastal day, the sky a brilliant, cloudless blue. In his bedroom, Samuel stood before a full-length mirror, adjusting the knot of his silk tie. The man looking back at him was someone he hadn't seen in years. His suit, once loose and baggy, now fit comfortably across his shoulders. His posture was straight, his eyes were clear, and he carried himself with a quiet, earned confidence. He walked out into the garden. It was a masterpiece. Roses of every shade, from the deepest red to the palest pink, nodded in the gentle sea breeze, their fragrance perfuming the air. It was a living tribute, a testament not just to Eleanor's memory, but to his own resilience. The wedding ceremony was held in a public garden overlooking the ocean, the aisle a wide, green carpet of grass. When Chloe appeared at his side, radiant in her white dress, she squeezed his arm. "You came, Grandpa," she whispered, her eyes shining with tears. "You really came." "I promised, didn't I?" he said, his voice steady. He offered her his arm, and she took it. His grip was firm. Then, the music began, and they walked. He didn't shuffle. He didn't lean on her for support. His steps were even, measured, and confident on the soft grass. He was aware of the eyes on him, the gentle smiles of friends and family who knew his story. But his focus was singular, on the beautiful, beaming woman beside him and the proud, steady beat of his own heart. He was not just escorting his granddaughter, he was walking away from the ghost of the man he had been and toward the man he had become. When they reached the altar, he didn't just hand her off. He turned to her, gave her a powerful, heartfelt hug, and kissed her cheek. It was a hug that spoke of lentil soup and roasted sweet potatoes, of small victories and painful setbacks, of a promise kept and a life reclaimed. The final scene is not at the wedding, but a week later. Samuel is in his garden, gently tending his roses. Evelyn joins him, carrying 2 mugs of tea. They sit together on a small bench, looking out at the glittering ocean. "They're beautiful, Samuel," she says, gesturing to the riot of color around them. "We did good work," he replies, and it's clear he's not just talking about the flowers. He is no longer just surviving, he is living. He talks about his plans, to visit Chloe and her new husband, to perhaps even take a trip to see the great sequoia trees he'd always lectured about but had never seen. The story closes with Samuel taking a slow, deep breath of the salt-tinged, rose-scented air. A man reborn, not just in body, but in soul. Thank you for joining us for Samuel's story. We hope his journey has been an inspiration. It serves as a powerful reminder that it's never too late to take a small step toward a stronger, healthier life. The choices we make in our kitchen every day can have a profound impact on our strength, our independence, and our ability to live life to the fullest. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. We'll see you again next time.